Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Mark, and I'm very excited to do this Power Over Diabetes webinar. You can change your life by changing your blood sugar. We're talking about preventing and reversal the natural way. So welcome, everyone. We just want to let you know that you're in the right place if you want to prevent diabetes, things like cancer, heart disease. If you want to have more energy, if you want to sleep better at night, and definitely if you want to lose more weight. So first we have to do a disclaimer. The information provided is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as a health or professional advice. Always seek the guidance of your doctor and other qualified health professional with any questions you have regarding your health or a medical condition. Never disregard the advice of the medical professional. And one other thing I want to add to this is whatever you do, don't ever just go off the medication related to any kind of diabetes. Okay, so what we're going to discover here is how high blood pressure or high blood sugar affects diabetes, cancers, heart disease, and other chronic illnesses. The hormone that causes weight gain. There's one hormone that creates just about all of these problems when it becomes high. And how diabetes medication may actually be hurting you or creating more of an issue for you. Your health is your wealth. I always talk about that. Spend it wisely. You absolutely want to make sure that your blood sugar levels are in normal range. When you get it in normal range, you're going to have better energy, you're going to have more vitality, better sleep, reduce pain and stiffness. You're going to be able to do things that you want to do. That's really the underlying goal of everything, is to be able to have a more fulfilled life, be able to go out with walks with your grandchildren and be able to exercise more, be able to spend more time and enjoy your time with your kids. You'll have reduced weight and improved body composition. So when you look in the mirror, you're going to go, wow, I like the person I see. And it also decreases your risk for chronic health problems, which is one of the biggest problems that we have today. So when we look at this, we have options here. The way I look at it is there's two roads that we can go down, and we're gonna talk about that in a minute. But first of all, diabetes affects almost every aspect of your physiology, and here are some of the consequences. You're sick and tired. You just don't have energy. You live with chronic pain and health problems. It starts affecting the losing of your vision, your mobility, loss of limbs. Alzheimer's, that's type 3 diabetes. Heart disease is linked to it, and cancer is definitely linked to high blood sugars. So I want to play this video for you, and it had a profound effect upon me. So go ahead and watch this.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide. The average Canadian will spend their last 10 years in sickness. Change your future at makehealthlast.ca.
So when I look at that, it just tells me that we have a choice. We all have this choice. And even if we're going down the road of sickness and disease, the good news is we can take a detour. There's hope. You can reverse these things. The body is designed to be able to heal itself. So I want to talk a little bit about, and when I do this, I want you to make sure that you understand I am not knocking the medical authorities or the medical doctors. They're some of the most skilled and qualified people in the whole world. In fact, they've saved my life, and they've saved the life of my daughter. So I'm always in debt to the medical profession. But the actual percentages of missed or misdiagnoses versus correct diagnosis or accurate diagnosis are difficult to determine. Although experts put it at around 40% are missed. Missed and misdiagnosis are rarely reported because there's no real mechanism for reporting them. The patient dies, the family may request an autopsy. But autopsies are expensive, and unless the information can be put to good use, they won't be recommended by the professionals. Further, if the professionals involved realize that they may have made a misdiagnosis or a mistake, it would be highly unlikely that they would consider making that recommendation, because they're going to get sued. They could lose their license. So I want to talk about a mother's story and why I got into preventative healthcare and wellness, and have been doing it for approximately 40 years. This started way back in the late or early 70s, in about 1970. This gal went to the doctor, and the doctor said, she wasn't feeling well. And he said, well, we'll do a few tests. We'll check you over. Nothing came back that showed up on the test right away. So she went home. About 3 months later, went back in, says, hey, I don't feel good. I feel worse. And so sure enough, they said, well, okay, we'll run a few more tests. We'll check it out. Nothing really showed up on the test again. She went home again, and 3 months later, come back in again, said, I'm feeling even more pain in my lower abdomen, and I just don't feel right. I'm really tired. I just don't feel good. And the doctor said, hey, look, we've done all the tests on you. I think it's all in your head. I think you're a hypochondriac. You need to just go home. You're just fine. Well, she ended up going down to the University of Minnesota, and they found she had stage 2 cervical cancer, in which they used chemotherapy, they used radiation, and they even put cobalt, which I don't know if they even do anymore. They put cobalt inside of her because she had cancer of the cervix. We're thinking now that it was because of the talcum powder that she had used as a feminine hygiene product every day back in those days. Could have been one of the big causes for that. So over time, she had ended up having surgery. She had to put a colostomy bag in, and she had all kinds of issues with it. And finally, she got to the point where her body had really succumbed to the cancer, and the pain was so bad it had gotten into her bones that she would literally beg God to die, to take her. The morphine she used would last for about 2 hours, and they could only give it to her every 4 hours at that highest dose. And finally, she did pass, and the diagnosis was that she died from a heart attack, which was certainly not the case. The reason why this is such an important story is this is my mother's story. And after watching what happened to her over 18 months, I thought there's got to be a better way to try to prevent this. Because back in 1971, when she passed, Nixon declared war on cancer. 1 out of 25 people got cancer. If we fast forward today, 1 out of every 2.7 women and 1 out of every 2 men are going to get cancer. So unfortunately, we're not winning the war on cancer. So why am I teaching this stuff? Because you've been told over and over again to believe that standard medical care of using toxic drugs in surgery is the only way to get well. I mean, just look at all the ads on TV, the commercials, the ads in all your magazines. Medicine is the best by far at acute care. but it really doesn't address chronic care. Basically, what we do is wait till we get a bunch of symptoms, and then we manage the symptoms with powerful different types of toxic drugs. And all drugs have a side effect. Thank God we have some of these. It is called managed care for a reason. We wait until we get symptoms, and we either cover them up or mask them. So there is sickness care, which is what we have in our country, and there is wellness care. Okay, so we're going to talk about blood sugar now, increasing your energy, improve your sleep, cardiovascular, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and then enjoying your life as you get it better. So here's one of the things that we look at. Predicted diabetes. It's going through the roof. In fact, it's up 900%. And the fastest area that it's growing in is children. So people ask, well, why is diabetes going up so much? What's causing that to go so high? Well, take a look at it. The average American eats now 150-pound bag of sugar. Now, a lot of that sugar is put into our food because the food manufacturers have found that if it tastes sweet and it stimulates your taste buds, you will eat more sugar and you'll eat more food. They'll sell more. It's a business. The other thing that was invented was high fructose corn syrup. Now, high fructose corn syrup is extremely deadly because it's in almost 6,000 products now. And the problem is when it's in food like your bread and different pastas and different energy bars and things like that, when they put it in there, it accumulates in the system. But fructose can't be broken down by your normal cells like glucose does. And so it's 10 times to 20 times as bad in your body because the liver has to handle it all. Creates huge problems. Okay, now watch this. Look at heart disease here. That's always been the #1 killer in our country here. So we still got around 600,000 people every year that die from heart disease. But guess what's going to take over soon? Yep, you see it, cancer. Cancer is soon going to be the #1 killer in this country. And it's because we're not treating the cause of the cancer, we're treating the symptoms. And unfortunately, to treat cancer, it runs usually between $250,000 up to $1 million to treat cancer and reoccurring cancer in the body. Cancer and heart disease are related to increased blood sugar also. Cancer loves sugar, absolutely loves sugar. And heart disease causes inflammation, high levels of insulin, which we're going to talk about in a minute here. So how do we get what we call type 2 diabetes? So there's 2 types of diabetes. Type 1 is one that is where something is attacking and damaging what we call the beta cells. They're in your pancreas. There are specific cells that make insulin. Okay, so it could be an infection. It could be an autoimmune condition. It could be some kind of other issue that creates this damage to those cells, and they no longer make insulin. So the body, if it doesn't, you're going to have all kinds of health problems. You'll lose weight, and eventually you'll die if you don't get insulin. And they invented insulin in about 1920s. So now the other thing is type 2 diabetes. Now this is a man-made type of disease, and it's gone through the roof because of our diet. And it's 95% of all diseases, including this one, are lifestyle and diet. So that's good news. That means that we can change our lifestyle and change our diet, and we can change most diseases and start to reverse them. Other things that will cause diabetes is heavy metals like aluminum, mercury, cadmium, lead. Now, we've all seen the thing with lead in the water over in Michigan, but there's many states that have this, toxic chemicals in the water. And then we also have regular toxins. There's 82,000 toxic chemicals now that's put into our air, food, and water. Most of them have never been tested by the FDA. And they can cause increase in blood sugar and insulin. Now, type 3 diabetes is another big one. That's where we get high levels of insulin and blood sugar circulating around in the brain and damaging the brain, just like it can damage your eyes or your nerves in your feet. This has been linked to Alzheimer's. Now, right now, 1 out of 7 adults is getting Alzheimer's. They predict by the year 2030, that's about 10 years, guys, it's going to be up to 1 out of 3 people. Now, that's a travesty, because not only you get to that point, you don't know which ends up, but also the problem is that who's going to be able to take care and pay for all that? So one of the things that we need is micronutrients and minerals. They're needed to correct and prevent diseases. The number one thing that we see in all diseases that goes through them is micronutrients and mineral deficiencies. So we can get these micronutrients from our food if we're eating a lot of our food. That's one area that we can do it. And they deliver powerful defense against free radical damage. And free radical damage, I'm going to explain to you, is kind of like living in Minnesota. We live in Minnesota here, and guess what? When it gets winter, there's a lot of salt and chemicals we put on the road to make the road safer to drive. If that gets on the car, it causes oxidation or free radical damage on the car, which is rust. It's like a cancer on the car. Another good way to explain it is if you cut an apple in half. One half you put some lemon juice, which has antioxidants, and the other side you just leave. In about 10 minutes, you'll see that the one side is all brown that doesn't have the antioxidants. It's rusting, it's aging faster. And that's what happens into our bodies that creates this disease. And micronutrients also support your nerves in your body. Your nerves control everything and communicate with your brain, so every cell in your body can communicate. We need micronutrients. Increased mental clarity and focus. Huge thing I see all the time in the office. Oh, I got brain fog. I can't remember things. I can't focus. I got ADD, ADHD. It enables powerful detoxification and immune support. Your immune system's what keeps you alive. Simple as that. Keeps you from getting infections and all kinds of other problems. The stronger your immune system, the healthier you are. It supports things like your mood. People that have anxiety and depression. These micronutrients help with cardiovascular function, joint pain and stiffness, muscle pain, and they fight and neutralize inflammation, which is what causes almost all diseases, is cellular inflammation. So I like a particular thing called Micro Daily. Micro Daily is a simple micronutrient that has antioxidants and all the micronutrients, the calcium, magnesium, the B vitamins, 2 types of vitamin A, 2 types of vitamin E, all those things. And it's simple because you just take it twice a day, and it fills in the gaps where we may be deficient in our food. Because we know that the federal government said in 1936 that our soils were depleted. And with modern farming practices, we're no longer putting all the micronutrients back in the soil, all 72 trace minerals. We're putting nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and we're spraying that on. So that's like taking $2,000 on your checking account, and each month you take out 72, which would be the 72 minerals that we take out, and we only put $3 back in. Now, think about that. How long are you going to be before you become bankrupt? And that's what's happened to a lot of our soils. So now they say it can take up to 5 apples to get the same nutrition as 1 apple 70 years ago. So that's why these micronutrients are not just a good idea, but now they're a must. Everybody should be taking micronutrients, in my opinion. So when it gets down to being healthy, it gets down to what we call the cell. The cell is who you are. You've got about somewhere between 40 to 80 trillion cells, depending on who you talk to. But trust me, that's a lot of cells. And each one of these cells, guess what, has a job to do. And the way it can work is it needs fuel. So we need to eat the right foods, first of all. And we like I said, lots of vegetables, number one, fruits, number two, good proteins, number three, nuts and seeds, number four, and then some good carbohydrates. Okay, and all of those, if they're broken down and they're digested properly, which is the biggest problem I see with people now, is their digestive systems have been beat up, and that's a whole nother talk. But if that works, then the cells get broken down and they get absorbed into the cell. Now, I want you to think of your cell as one of your cells is like the room that you're in tonight. Okay, inside the cell here, you're going to have lots of doors and windows. Each cell has about 20,000 to 100,000 doorways that allow different types of nutrients in different shapes and sizes to be able to go into those what we call receptor sites. They're like docking stations. They connect in there, and when they connect with the right size and shape, just like a key, when you put it in your car, then it fits perfectly and it allows the nutrients to come into the body. It allows water, it allows hormones, all those things to come in. So the first thing we got to have for a healthy cell and to prevent disease is nutrition into the cell. The cell cannot run without good fuel. So in other words, putting sugar into your gas tank in your car is the worst idea you can ever do unless you want your motor to blow up. We're putting a 150-pound bag of sugar per person into our body, and it's blowing up, believe me. So once the nutrients are in there, the body uses this, and it develops what we call waste products. Waste products, just like if you eat a meal and drink some fluids, you're going to have a bowel movement. You should have a bowel movement within 24 hours. The food that you ate, the waste products, should be out of your body. Second of all, we should normally urinate probably after 3 to 4 hours, at least after you drink a bunch of fluids. If you don't urinate within 3 to 4 days, chances are you will be dead because the buildup of poisons in the body. So those are natural toxins that develop into the cell, and they have to be released from the cell. So nutrition has to go in, toxins have to go out. This is the major cause of almost any disease that you can come up with. Okay? And so when we look at this, we also have 82,000 toxic chemicals. Now, these toxic chemicals also can get into the cell through those doorways, and they'll damage the inside of the cell. First thing they'll do, and high levels of sugar and all kinds of things like that will create this, but first thing they will do is they will damage what we call the power plants or the mitochondria. So that some of them, there'll be less of them, less power in the cell, and the amount of power put out will be reduced from 100%, like a young child, if you ever watch them go, 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 and then to the point where people will come in and I'll ask them, well, what's your energy level? They'll say a 3 or 4. Oh, right away it tells me we got a mitochondrial problem. We've got an energy problem. Something's wrong in the system. Now, there could be things with their thyroid and their adrenal, and there could be digestive issues, is another things that I see with that. But it all gets down to the cells once again. So the other thing that it can do is go in and damage the DNA, and it'll turn on what we call bad genes. So if you have, and we all do have some bad genes or weak genes that have passed on through the last 5 generations in our family, guess what? These toxic chemicals can be the bullet that fires the gun that creates the toxic chemical reaction and turns on the bad genes. Likewise, we can turn on good genes by putting the good stuff back in and cleaning out those toxic chemicals. So This is super important, and I hope you understand this. So once again, putting all the sugar and the high fructose corn syrup, all those things are the worst things that you could ever put into your body. So let's talk about the hormone that causes so much destruction in our body. It's called insulin. It's called insulin. And the way it works is, over time, what our body does is it keeps, we have this high glucose meal. We're eating a lot of, say, for example, breakfast, we have some bread or some oatmeal, and then we add some juice. And all these are all high carbohydrates. And by the way, juice is just as bad as drinking a Mountain Dew, which has 11 teaspoons of sugar. Juice is almost all high fructose corn syrup and glucose. It's very concentrated, so that's not a good thing. So when we start out in the morning, and then at lunch we might have a pop, or excuse me, with lunch or as a snack, and throughout the day we're eating high levels of food with sugar in it. Remember that 66% of all the food that Americans eat is processed. It's processed food that's loaded with these chemicals and this sugar in it. Okay, so what happens, it's kind of like the glucose starts getting packed into the liver, and the liver starts getting full. And then it fills up the pancreas. And then it starts being converted from sugar or glucose into fat. And now it gets stored because we got to put it somewhere. We've got to store it. We store it in a fat cell. So that's how we start to gain weight with it. Now, once the body gets to the point where it can't eat any more sugar, it doesn't want any more sugar, it becomes smart and says, look, I'm going to become what we call insulin resistant. So here's how it works. We have insulin, which is a hormone that's released when we have high levels of sugar in the body. It grabs on, comes to the cell, and tells the cell that, hey, we've got all this sugar, open up, and it takes the glucose in. So the regulator for glucose is insulin. Insulin is what allows that sugar to go into your cell. Now, when we have meals that are high in sugar, the insulin is going to be excreted very high. It's going to come out and it's going to pull all that in. If we do that day after day, month after month, year after year, we're going to start accumulating more and more and more of the sugar, which will turn into fat, and it gets stored all over the place. And finally, the body says that enough is enough. It's like you've eaten too much and you don't want to eat anymore. You can't eat another bite. So the body sends a message to block at the doorways, those receptor sites. It says no more insulin can pass. We're not putting that insulin in here. We can't take it anymore. So we get high levels of insulin. The body keeps making it because it wants to get rid of the glucose, but it can't do it because the cell is rejecting it. So now if the insulin can't get in and do its job, the glucose can't get in. So the glucose gets higher and higher in the bloodstream. So now we get high blood glucose. We get it checked either by doing a urine test or by a blood test, and your doctor says, well, you've got diabetes now. You got type 2 diabetes. That's because the body would not allow insulin to bring any more of that glucose in. So the first thing that is done medically is we usually use glyburide or we use a drug called metformin. Now what that does is it forces the insulin into the cell, even though the cell says, look, I don't want any more. So it's just like on your screen. You can see the glucose over here wanting to get in, and we're forcing insulin in. This is an actual thing they do in Japan, by the way, if you get more people into the cars. Well, that's what happens to our body, is it actually forces the insulin in. And then that's going to allow more glucose to come in. So we're going to get even more fatty liver. We're going to get more fat around the organs. That's why it's so devastating around the heart, around the tissues. And guess what? It's going to cause you to gain more weight. because we're storing more fat. Okay, so insulin is a fat storing hormone. So as that goes on, that works for a while because it pulls the glucose, it goes down, your glucose goes down, but now we got real high levels of insulin, which are super inflammatory. They cause all kinds of inflammation in our body and our cells. Okay, so now the next step is that the body says, look, I already told you once I don't want any more insulin, so it becomes even more insulin resistant. So we have to raise the medication up even more. We might get 2 or 3 of the medications. And then finally, when that stops working, then what's going to happen is we pull out the big gun. It's called insulin. We start injecting it right into our bellies. We start taking it into our body. And what does it do? The same thing. It forces even more of that insulin. We're going to get more of it to force it into the cell to bring those glucose levels down, creating even more weight gain, more damage to the liver, and now it's going to start going other places. It's going to start going to the brain and cause Alzheimer's. It's going to start going to your nerves and cause neuropathy in your feet and poor circulation, where you lose your toes and lose your feet and they cut your legs off. You start having issues with the arteries in your, that's why it causes cardiovascular disease. That high level of glucose and insulin there causing the inflammation. It scrapes the arteries. And when it scrapes the arteries, it puts little cuts in there. And that ends up causing the reaction to tell the liver to make more cholesterol. And cholesterol is the fireman that gets rid of the fire in the arteries. So it goes in and paints a layer of cholesterol in there to protect that artery. And guess what? Because of high cholesterol doing its job, we want to go in and reduce it with statin drugs. Get rid of the cholesterol. The cause of the problem is the high insulin and glucose. It's the inflammation in the arteries that's causing it. That's what you have to fix. Okay, so now it's affecting the arteries, causing heart attacks, and high levels of sugar are always linked and feed cancer. So these are the big ones. These are the big ones, and we can predict it's going to happen with this hyperinsulinemia, which means high insulin in the blood. So the very thing that we're using is actually speeding up the disease process by forcing more and more into the system over time. So here's Dr. Kraft, and he's talking about diagnosing diabetes here. And if you look at the blue line there, the blue line is someone that eats kind of like a Happy Meal. Eats a bunch of junk, maybe have a soda with it. And normally it takes about, we want to get to about 30 milliliters of, and I forget exactly what the actual thing is, whether it's international units or milliliters of level of insulin. But once it hits 30, that's considered back into the normal range. So having somebody that eats, say, for example, a Happy Meal, eating something with a lot of sugar in it, it takes the average person about 2 hours for them to get rid of that high level of blood sugar. Now, the next one we see here, we can see this yellow line here. This is somebody here that is eating more frequently, starting to get a little bit of insulin resistance there. And theirs is going to take about somewhere around 3 hours for them to get back to the normal blood sugar level after they eat. And then the next one we see, this is somebody that could be definitely pre-diabetic. Their blood sugar is between 110 or 110 to 120. They're pre-diabetic. It's going to take them about 4 hours. They're eating the same exact meal, but because they're insulin resistant and they got this hyperinsulinemia, guess what? It doesn't go back to normal for 4 hours. So that means that you're not going to burn any fat for 4 hours in your body. You're going to store it. And then the red line is the actual diabetes. Somebody whose blood sugar is over 120. that takes at least a minimum of 6 hours for that same person to eat the same meal to get back down into that 30 range. Now think of it this way. The average person gets up in the morning. They'll eat about 7 o'clock. They'll eat some things with a bunch of sugar in it and oatmeal and other types of things like that, or bread or toast or something like that. They might put a little jam on it. They may have a little snack around 10 o'clock. And then they might eat something at noon, something at 3 o'clock, a little snack, maybe supper time, and then they got to have a snack before they go to bed, right? So they tell you to eat 6 times a day. Well, guess what? That person's going 6 hours before they can actually lose any weight. So they're not going to lose any weight from 7 o'clock till noon. That's still fat storage time. And from noon until 6, if we have another snack in there, or even if we don't, that's 6 hours. They're not losing any weight then. And then if we go from, say we have a snack at 8 o'clock, we've got 6 more hours before our body's going to get to the point where it actually gets into fat burning and quits storing fat in the body. That's why it's so difficult for diabetics to lose weight, because their blood sugar and their insulin is way too high and they're storing fat all day. So they're getting probably about 6 hours a day that they're actually breaking down fat when they sleep. And this first person down in the bottom is getting over 16 hours a day. That's why they can eat what they want and they lose weight and they don't have any weight issues. So insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome is related to all these things: heart disease, dementia, strokes, strokes in the brain, strokes in the artery, aneurysms, high cholesterol, fatty liver, cancer, diabetes, and high blood pressure. Those are the big ones, guys. If you fix the blood sugar and get this balanced, you can prevent these diseases. So here's a normal response to insulin, like we were talking about. Everybody's snacking all day. You see at breakfast, insulin's way up. They have another snack. Here it goes up again. Then we eat lunch, way up. Once again, it goes throughout the day, and then we snack. So all day long, insulin is out. That's how we get hyperinsulinemia. So the answer is stop eating as so frequently and stop putting in sugar into your body all day long and things that turn into sugar, like cookies and donuts and cakes and crackers and chips, pop, all these different things. And then you got to read the labels, because if you're eating foods that aren't natural, like fruits and vegetables, and you're eating stuff from the inside of the grocery aisle that are processed, they're going to be loaded with chemicals, sugar, and salt. So what's the solution? You have to look at it from a holistic point of view. There's not one thing that will fix it. It's a physical, mental, and spiritual person. That's who you are. So what we do is an A to Z complete program to develop a healthy lifestyle and prevent and reverse dis-ease in the body. We combine physical, mental, and chemical and spiritual as a holistic approach. What we look at is 100 days to a new you. We know that in 100 days, in almost everybody that we work with, we can start seeing some great changes in their body. They can start going down and taking a detour from that road of disease and change direction and start coming back on the road of health. And it only takes 100 days to start doing that. Now, I'm not saying you'll be 100% well, but I'm just telling you, you're going to make changes, and you're going to start seeing changes within 100 days is all. You may have had the problem for 20 years, and in just 100 days, you can start reversing it. So insulin response to eating patterns without snacks. Here's what happens now. We got fat burning. We do this. We get some time off. We do some more fat burning. So now that's the first thing I recommend. Start eating 3 meals, no snacking. 3 meals, no snacking. That's the first goal to start to get your blood sugars back in balance. Then we recommend doing some intermittent fasting. Dr. Fung, who is a nephrologist in Canada, has proven this with thousands of patients in his office. And same thing with Dr. Daniel Pompa. All these different doctors that I use as mentors have proven that going on an intermittent fasting, which means I'm just cutting down the window of how often I eat. How often I eat. So in other words, we eat somewhere 2 times a day, either morning and lunch or lunch and supper. And now the fat burning is exponentially increased, and it starts to burn off that excess fat, and it lowers the insulin levels in the body. It lowers the blood sugar. And guess what happens? Then we can talk with our doctor as the blood sugars go down to reduce our medication. Be sure to do it with your doctor's help. So will it work for me? Well, here's the thing that I always find with everybody. If you're not committed to more energy, weight loss, improved digestion, boosting your immune system, feeling better, then this program's not for you. And if you're not willing to do a simple but effective lifestyle plan that you can follow by using foods as your best medicine and scientifically proven methods to add years to your life and life to your years, then this is not for you. So the key is that we have to have somebody be committed to your health. You can't go in and say, well, I'll do it a little bit. It's like saying, well, I'm going to get in shape. I'll go out and walk 1 day a week. Well, that's not going to get you in shape, is it? Or I'm going to go on a diet. I'll go on a diet, and I'll diet for 2 days a week, but the rest of the week I'll eat whatever I want. It doesn't work. Well, the same thing with this is we have to develop what we call simple lifestyle changes. So that's going to be with eating, that's with sleep, that's with exercise, that's with your mental and emotional outlook, reducing stress in your life. All those things are super important, and you have to look at each one of them to develop this healthy lifestyle so you can not only lose weight, reduce your insulin, reduce your inflammation, your blood sugars, but reduce disease in your body. So what can I expect from the program? Well, 100 days to a new you, you're going to lose weight, you're going to lose visceral fat. That's the fat around the organs that causes all the problems. That's going to reduce, and we do a simple test to check for that. Increase your energy. Who doesn't want to have more energy, with work, for your work, your family, your home activities? It'll release some toxic chemicals out of your body also, which is the cause of many, if not most, health problems. Remember I said nutrition in and toxins out. And also, we want to develop a healthy lifestyle. No more dieting, ever. Diets don't work. 95% of the diets that people go on fail as far as weight loss. 95%. And a lot of them cost $3,000, $4,000 to lose 30 pounds. And you got a 95% chance of getting it back on. It doesn't work. You have to develop a lifestyle. And you're going to learn how to get well and stay well. That's the key. You need to be able to be in charge of your own health for the first time in your life. And you got to have the knowledge to understand it. So I'm a big believer in having a really good coach. You got to have somebody that knows and understands it. So I recently had trouble with my car. Guess what? I brought it to an expert. They fixed it in no time. Same thing with your health. You got to have somebody that understands this type of area and what's going on with it, a natural approach. Now, why did I conceive this holistic program? Well, we find that these are the things that cause it. Toxicity, nutritional deficiencies, sleep issues, high blood sugar, chronic pain, digestive issues, and hormonal imbalance. So in order for you to get well and lose weight and feel good with energy, you have to balance these things. You have to balance all these things here in order to get well. This is the crux to long-term health. So the components of my program is we do a very comprehensive history, 330 questions we ask. We dig deep into what's going on in your life. And then we do a very thorough consultation. We talk about it. We ask things like, how's your sleep, and how much water do you drink, and what are you eating every day, and what's your stress levels? All those things are super important. We also do a comprehensive exam, and we send you home with 4 different tests you can do right at home. We have specific eating plans and recipes that are fitted to what your issue is in your body, because some people have food sensitivities or food allergies, and we can check for those, and if they have those, we don't want them eating those specific foods. So we have to develop a lifelong program so that you can use food as your medicine, because it's your best medicine by far. And then your program has to be individually planned with certain supplementation. We use supplements, and we only use pharmaceutical grade supplementation, like I talked about the Micro Daily before. And you want to work with the body, mind, heart, and soul. So what we do with this is included in this is all of the history, consultation, exam, and home test. That's regularly $125. The comprehensive urinalysis. This is 22 different tests. And it also goes in and checks your bowel flora for your gut. It checks your adrenal glands. It checks your pH to see how toxic and acidic your body is. Checks to see if you can digest protein, fats, and carbohydrates. It checks your vitamin C levels. And it checks all kinds of other markers to see if there's any disease going on in your body that may require medical attention. Okay, we also do a written computerized analysis of your recent blood tests. If you've had those done, if you've had any blood work, we can run it through a computerized program that can tell us exactly what may be developing in your body before you get a disease. Wouldn't that be wonderful? That's regularly $49. And then we also do a 30-minute report of findings with a customized plan. So we have to have a plan specifically for you, because you are different than everybody. And so it takes me about 45 minutes to put all the information together, and then I sit down and go over this with you individually. So normally if I'm going to do that, it's $438 to do all that. But you watching this video here, if you tell them that you're watching the webinar, you'll get the webinar special at only $69. And the reason why I do that is because I want to see whether or not I can help you. If I don't think I can help you, or if you're not ready to get help, that's the other thing. If you're not ready to commit to your health again, then it's not going to work. So that's why I do this, and we can check this over and find out exactly what your health is like. We also have some other things that we do for people that call right when they see this. If you come in, we do have a massage chair that you can have. You get 10% off in-office products when you do the program. If we do decide we can help you, it does not include the vitamins, but everything else that we have. And we do have other tests that we do when needed. We do hair tissue analysis, organic acid tests, food sensitivity tests. We do stress reduction tests. We do blood sugar tests. And we do a complete body composition test to find out what you weigh, what your percentage of body fat is, the muscle percent, the visceral fat, which is really important, your BMI, and your cell tissue age. Are you aging faster than what your age is? Are your cells wearing out? So a major transformation is waiting for you. 100 days to a new you. You're going to learn how to transform your body into a new you. You're going to look better, have more energy, improve your sleep, build your immune system, enjoy your family, work and activities that you like to do, and learn how to control your weight and blood sugar. We're going to teach you how to fish. So please take advantage of this amazing offer. All you got to do is call. The number that we have here is 763-441, or excuse me, I'm sorry, 763-300-3456. That's 763-300-3456. And just tell them you want the webinar special that you saw on blood sugar, and you'll get it for just $69. There is a time limit to this. We're going to be doing this for 30 days from the time that you see this. And then it's going to be our regular price, but we did want to offer it for at least 30 days. And we will be having our next workshop that we're going to be doing on weight loss and toxicity, permanent weight loss and toxicity. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to our webinar tonight. You're welcome to share this with others. We hope you will, so that they may help to be able to balance their blood sugar, start to improve their eating plans, that type of thing. And also remember, the number is 763-300-3456. Give us a call. We'll be happy to see if we can help you. Have a great day, and God bless.